It's the podcast time.
Yeah.
You're really running the show today, so I have a couple things I was gonna bring up, but I feel like you have.
I got enough stuff here.
I feel like you got a full boat.
Yeah, I got stuff that I'm pretty excited about. But what I like just before we did the thing is we just talked about a couple old school hockey parents that we know.
What are we talking about? I forget.
Just not sure if they're nice or not.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because they're nuts.
Because they're nuts. That's right.
They're absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah.
It is funny.
Yeah.
There's you can never tell, eh? People will come in and they seem like so I'm thinking of another dad. I'll tell you who it is after.
Okay.
And I had a really good talk with him at the start of summer. And he's one of those guys that I can't tell if he's a good guy or if he's a nice guy.
So was it last summer or this summer?
This summer.
Okay, so this is just recent.
Yeah. So it was going in.
Obviously.
He was like struggling with, deciding what to do with his kid and whatever. I told you about him before, but I'll give you a refresh later. And so we had a good conversation, talked on the phone for a while, whatever. And reached out to him again recently because we have a new set of programs starting up and I haven't got an answer from him yet. And so it's like, I think back to the first phone conversation and now it's like, I can't tell if you're a good guy.
I know who it is.
I can't tell if you're a good guy or if you're a nice guy.
Yeah.
I
think I know who you're talking about.
And it's funny the difference between someone who's a nice guy and someone who's a good guy.
Yeah.
Drawing that.
We talk about it all the time.
We talk about it all the time. It's funny. You can be a nice guy. Usually I talk about this in terms of when women are trying to find a good man.
Yeah.
It's like just because a guy's nice doesn't mean he's good, And I think about that when I talk to some of these parents. It's like you're nice when we talk, but then when you walk out the door, it's like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's funny.
I know. Funny for sure. Yeah. I wanted to say something that I think it's actually really important when it comes down to, especially skill development. It was because I had my own frustration. I guess I'll just say what happened. So I was at the boxing club last weekend with my kid, and I don't typically watch, but I said, hey, because for whatever reason, it was just him going in, and I said, I want to watch a little bit, just see some of the stuff because I'm very interested in boxing. Did a little when I was younger, and so anyways, I went in there and I talked to the boxing coach. I said I might start jumping in on this. He goes, yeah, for sure. He goes, it'd be good for you. I go, yeah, for sure. So this older guy comes up to me. He's in the boxing club. So in this boxing club, what I love about it is it's to me it's like the fairest place in the world, because when you walk into this place, you can see old guys, young guys, out of shape people without teeth, people with teeth, girls, boys, black, white, whatever you are, tattooed, no tattooed. You can be affluent, if that's a word. You could be dead broke that lives down the street from the boxing club. But at the end of the day, when you go in there, it's fair. You either work hard and you're humble and you do the job and you learn and you work hard and you get better, or you get humbled. So when I was there, this older guy comes up to me, and much older to you, but probably 20 years on me. So he's probably 70. He comes over and he goes, I hear you're going to start boxing. So I said, yeah, next week I might. So he goes, why don't we go in the back and do a little bit? So I'm like, yeah, sure. So we went in the back, and I haven't been in a boxing club in a long time. But so I went back there. He said, well, show me your stance. So I get in the stance, and he goes, oh, that's pretty good. So then he takes my hand and he starts, just go this way. He goes, and he explains why, because if you hit someone hard, break your hand. I said, yep, fair enough. Working on my stance. Right, throwing a jab, a little different than the way I've thrown a jab, but a little bit. But it took a little bit of, when something's natural, right? You do something one way, it takes thought process to do it, footwork, all this kind of stuff. So then he was working on defense, and he was asking me questions, trying to trick answers, which is fine. I get that, but he's a teacher, and there's a couple times where I was like, yeah, because blah blah blah. And he goes, well, he wanted to be the boss, and I'm like, I'm good with that. So anyways, as he was doing this, I was sitting there in my own mind, because I know it made me think of what my students might do. I was doing this. I was going to say, no, I already know. Like, I know that part. And what I wanted to do is kind of speed through the very, very basic parts of the boxing. And then I caught myself and I said, no, be humble. This guy's giving you your time. And he actually knows what he's doing. He's working with you. he knows more than you do. You might learn something. This is going through my mind at rapid pace. And it's about being humble. It's about having the respect and taking it. And the other thing that went through my mind is how I have students, and I know that when I pull them aside and I know it's the most important thing, and they kind of, I know, yeah, you got it, and they go through that, it frustrates me because
That's
I know, that you want to get to, if it's A, B, C, D, you want to get to C, D right away, but you'll never get there without really spending the time on A. And spending the time on A is a pain in the ass because you're not good. So you might have so let's just say in shooting, right, that your shot comes off fairly hard. Okay, let's just say that's the thing. But if I pull you in now and I say your shot is fairly hard, but it's not accurate, or it's readable by everybody in the building, so we have to fix that part. So what we're gonna have to do is go back to the nitty gritty beginning of it, and it might be puck placement, it might be hand placement, it might be something along those lines. Or having the puck not too far out, all those different things. And that little step there is different than what you've always done. So now it takes time. So now it takes concentration. And now you will, no matter who you are, be frustrated. And in order to get to that next step, you have to get through the frustrated part. So back to the boxing club again. When I was doing my jab, he wanted me, so not that anyone could see my footwork, but I was used to kind of driving all power from my toes to my hands, right? And all in one step. But what they wanted me to do is start throwing first and then power through, right? And then it was that was really awkward because I'm 53 and I've been throwing punches. So I went to boxing club when I was about 14. I did that for not 3, maybe 2 years in and out. And it was different than I've ever thrown a punch. So talk about rewiring. So the simplest thing that you think you can do, you know how to throw a punch. Huh?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Not the way not effectively. So then we went from there to footwork. So me being an athlete, always really driving my hips and turning my, that pivot foot, really turning the heel. Well, he didn't want me to do it as much. So he was tweaking footwork, talking about inches. So I loved it though, because that's what I do on the ice. So it was go through that process to get it, and then you get the okay. And then, so do I have it now? No.
Yeah.
No, not a chance. But as I'm watching these people in the gym, I'm watching and I'm going, look at I'm watching Josh, how good he is. And it's there's the tweaking of those little tiny things. And when people think that they can actually fight, and you get a guy like that, or a pro boxer that does this for a living, it's you don't have a chance, man. They know how to fight, Yeah. So that was first. You going to add something to that?
Oh yeah.
I got lots to go on here, by the way.
I got tons on that. So first of all, Border City Boxing Club is one of the best places in the area. I went there probably for same thing on and off for maybe 10 years. And I remember the older guy you're talking about was there when I was there. So I started there in grade 7, and I did it all the way up until I was 21, when my trainer that was there, who was also named Josh, he ended up moving out west. And so I'd been doing it for on and off for 10 years. And it is exactly what you said. It's such a meat and potatoes place, man. Everything's old and sweaty, and we're kind of broken and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't been there in a long time, so I don't know what kind of updates they've done to it, whatever. I'm sure they've done some stuff, but it's exactly that. It's a humble pie of a place, man. You walk in and it's just oh,
yeah,
we're gonna do some work in here.
It's so ugly, but it's so nice.
That's great,
right?
So, and the interesting thing just about what you were saying is you kind of got to be the student,
again, I loved it.
Which you probably don't get a lot of that anymore. And then you got to watch somebody who's kind of you in a different domain.
Well, that's what I loved,
which was a cool thing to be able to see and to take part in. But the nice point that you made there, especially for the kids going into something like that, where it's especially something like boxing, especially for boys, and especially if they're athletes. When you walk into something like boxing or where you're working on fighting, everybody wants to think they know how to fight. Everyone wants to think they know how to throw a punch already. Everybody wants to think that they can do this and they don't need all this help and whatever, because there's a little bit of embarrassment about not knowing or not being tough, or
not unlike going to a gym when you're not strong.
Exactly.
Yet. Not
it's
unlike
exactly
that.
the same thing, right?
There's that learning curve.
probably even worse though, because it's even more of an ego hit
Oh
to
God,
not
yeah.
be able to throw the punch. Because like in the gym, there's a bit of that tough guy thing, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
if you can lift a lot, it's kind of like a proxy for being tough or like being strong or something like that. And when you're in the boxing club, that is exactly what it is. It's like if you're not good at this, you'll get beat up. So it's really an ego hit if you are being told by somebody that you're no good, you know?
Yep.
So, but to your point about the humility piece, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, boxing is just kind of the best example of it, or being in a physical altercation is the best example of it. Because if you're not humble, you will actually get hurt, or you'll actually
You won't win.
you won't win, right? And so it's important that you can have the maturity to have the humility when you're in situations like that, even if like you were kind of alluded to the fact that the guy kind of wanted to be the boss and like tell you and whatever.
Yeah.
But that
Well, he did, and just to be clear, there's zero negative.
right.
He just what I took from it was like he grabbed me, heard you want to be here, and he wanted to spend time
Yeah,
showing,
that's
and he
fine.
wanted. So it was like awesome.
Right, but
Yeah,
my
give
point
him
of
the time.
but my point of that is even if you come across a trainer that rubs you the wrong way, not
Mhm.
that he did, I'm just as an
No, no.
example. Even if you come across somebody who seems like a know-it-all or they're a little bit arrogant about what they're teaching, at the end of the day, you probably will be able to take something from this person. So instead of getting, ego hurt or whatever because they seem to be dictating to you what to do and all that kind of stuff, having the humility is just that's how you're going to learn, because there's something to learn from anywhere that you look. And kind of just on a related note, I had a kid ask me a question yesterday about or a few days ago about made a video about it. Is there anything that we can take from bodybuilders, like as athletes training? And there's tons, right? There's tons. So you don't want to
Don't
go,
necessarily do the program.
yeah, right. But there's
tons.
pieces of everything. It's like, are there things that you can take from boxing to apply to hockey? Of course. But boxing's not hockey, right? Bodybuilding is not hockey, but there are things you can take from everything, right? So you don't want to go in with your ego so big that you are just like, not listening to that, not doing that, or what do you know, you're old, like this kind of stuff, So it's important. It's just, I wanted to highlight that point that you made because I think it's important.
Well, but so there's so many angles to go on the humbleness because how this conversation went. There's another older guy. They're always Pops is his name right there, right? And Pops, every time I've been in there, it's his time to work out and help other people. So Pops gets his raps going, and like this guy's another 70, and he still goes to the club, puts his raps on, slowly moves around. But I was watching him. The first day I came in, he was kind of fishing up, but I was watching him. He's not moving real fast or anything, but he gets on the speed bag, does it at a pretty good pace for a while, which is hard. But he was doing a stomach routine I was watching, and I'm going, wow. Like I was sitting there going, wow, I don't know if I could do that. He was doing legs with twists and doing all different types of sit-ups, and it was probably for 9 minutes straight. He's 70.
Yeah.
And if I ran into this guy and the older guy, somewhere, and they said something to me or we bumped in, I'd be like, okay, there, dude.
Yeah.
This guy did I think it was close to 9 minutes straight of stomach.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that's impressive. Like, being honest with you, that's impressive. I can look at that and say, for a 12-year-old to do that, you're 70. I said, that's impressive, dude. I see athletes every day. Way to go. So, but anyways, the other thing in there is that so you got it's a dichotomy. You got humble but not, because if they came down face to face, they would rip you apart. So even the students in there, if you will get humbled. So I think in that atmosphere, you learn that you have to be humble, you have to be willing to learn, you have to be willing to work, or else
It'll
you
show.
don't get to be a champ.
Yeah.
If we're going to use the word champ. And even the guys that are really good, they have to humble it down because they're still learning, still working. And what I see about this place is everyone's helping each other. Individual sport, maybe? I don't know what the reason is. Because in hockey, it's not necessarily like that. It's more, I got to beat you all the time. Like even teammates, or I got to be better. You're fighting for ice time. I don't know. But I just notice everybody helping each other. So that's what I was saying. I think it's the fairest place in the world. Like maybe it's not the fairest place in the world, but everything was fair. And I was going to say it for this reason, because like I said, there was a girl in there that was, I would say, 5'1", 5'2". Her body does not indicate anything athletic, and she probably is not athletic at all. But she goes to that club, and I was watching her. I was there for about a little over an hour, and she went for that 90 minutes, or that 60, 75 minutes, and she put everything into it, her heart. And the beautiful thing I saw about this is the coaching. It was, and the guy in there taking punches and stuff like that. He didn't look at her like a girl. He didn't look at her as an out of shape girl. He didn't look at her as like, well, you have no chance to go anywhere. They all looked at her like, here's someone that wants to get better, get stronger, get tougher, but whatever, all these different things, and put her heart into it. And I'm going to teach them. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So that's what I was saying. It doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter the race, it doesn't matter the how tall, how good, whatever, how athletic you are, any of those things. It's if you come to this place and you're willing to learn, and you're willing to work hard, and you're willing to humble yourself to take advice and apply it, I respect you. And they don't even say that, but it's like you have a chance to get better. That's the message. And if you don't, well, you'll be looking at the lights shortly.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that everything you're saying. That's exactly how it was when I was there. That's exactly what you can take out to apply to hockey too. If you want to make your argument that hockey is not necessarily as fair some of the time, then you can have that conversation if you choose to focus on that. But it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. You go up, you learn, you work hard, and if you do that, you'll get better, you'll get some results, you'll get an opportunity. Like those are the types of things that are going to happen. And that was the exact dynamic and it was so weird because the feeling when you're in a place like that, like you said, where everyone's helping each other and you have this weird, like in this together type of feeling that you don't really get as much when you're in the team sport environment with hockey or whatever.
It's amazing.
It's just like you're in a good mood. Like you want to talk to people, you want to be nice to everybody. And it could be like we said before, the threat of violence that's running through that place. Could be some of that.
Respect for the coaches, maybe, because he can whack you.
And that's what I love about the respect thing that you were mentioning there. It's like anybody is worthy of your respect if they do these three things or whatever, which would be that come to learn, come to work, have the humility. Like, that's how I try to do that in my life. Anyone who I can look at and say, yep, you work, you're humble, and whatever, you're on that continual journey to trying to learn and better yourself and all that. It's like, I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you have going for you. I don't care any of that. Any of those factors don't matter. It's like I immediately have respect for you because I can see that you're doing that. And that's exactly what happens in that place.
Yeah. And lastly, about the box club, they're going to shut up for a bit, is what a way. So people like to do, hockey players, we love to do everything hockey. We love to do spring hockey. We love to do more camps. We love to do more hockey. But I'm telling you, I've always strongly suggest playing other sports for many, many reasons. But you get into that place, and that's a whole different world, mentally and physically. You're working a whole different thing, but you're working explosive, you're working quick, you're working angles, you're looking reaction. How does this not benefit you in any sport?
Exactly, for that reason is why my dad kind of pushed me into do that. You develop a little bit of toughness. It's like character builder. You develop some humility, all those things that you can apply not just to hockey, to everything. Because I'm sure the people that teach the boxing thing say the same thing that we say about the hockey thing. Boxing is life. Hockey is life.
Yeah.
It's like the metaphor is the same.
1000%.
And that's why it's so valuable, and it does carry over. And so if for me, if I was gonna suggest another thing for kids to do, I don't care if you're a hockey player, a baseball player, or whatever sport is your main sport, is going and doing something like that, like learning a combat sport, learning something where that humble is baked into the cake. Because if you think you're gonna walk in there with your ego, like you're gonna get knocked out, you're gonna get tapped out, you're gonna get whatever, you're gonna get beat up. And I remember that when I started doing sparring at that place, my first time doing sparring, I ended up sparring with a girl who was the Ontario champ a year older, and me going in,
old humble pie,
and me going in thinking like, I'm not gonna hit a girl. And she's
gonna hit you.
And my trainer, that's what he said. That's what he said to me, right? He was like, "You better hit her." He's like, "If you don't hit her, she's hitting you."
Yeah.
And she whooped my ass.
Yeah.
Absolutely whooped my
See
ass.
if you can hit her first.
And I couldn't.
No.
And by the end, when I was actually trying to get her, I couldn't do it. She absolutely tuned me.
Yeah.
And that is right there. There's the humble pie, man. It's so transferable. So.
Next thing I want to talk about is another beautiful success story that we have in town here, and it's Noah Morneau. So I talked to him yesterday, and I said, "Is it okay if I just talk to you about a little bit?" He goes, "Yeah, go ahead," because he's got a really interesting. No, it's not. I wouldn't call it interesting. I'd call it a story. Okay, so Noah he signed with the Windsor Spitfires 3 days ago. All right, came out yesterday, and he's one of our students. And so in the 2020 OHL draft, he was the 15th round pick. 15th round pick.
15th.
I heard, yeah, not 15th overall, 15th round pick. There's 15.
Wow, I didn't know he was that late.
Yeah, he's in the 04 draft. So he there's 15 rounds in the OHL draft, and he went. The number is 294th overall, and there's only 300 picks. So 6 more picks, he doesn't get drafted. Okay. Noah was, when he got drafted, he was very good player, very smart, 200 foot all day, work hard. But like, the character of this kid. He's a phenomenal man.
Yep.
Like great kid, great roots on the kid. And but when he played physical as a smaller guy. So when he was drafted, he was about 5'7", 135. So that's one of the reasons why he probably wasn't drafted higher. And so that was that. So when you get drafted, and of course when he got drafted, I right away got a hold, real happy for him. He was happier. He's always got that big smile, right?
Yeah.
So great. Plays a physical game and a good game. So he signed with the Spits the other day. He was very close to deciding on what team to go to out west, and deciding on narrowing down college teams, NCAA teams, for his future. That's where he thought he was going to be going, because he always wanted to go to play for the Spits, obviously, but he figured, what are the chances now, right? But he just kept working hard. So that's a great story. Signed with the Spits. He'll be playing with them this year, and I couldn't be prouder of the kid. Now, to go deeper than that, this is the part that just blows my mind. Is a few years ago, his mother was terminally ill, like real bad. She was just, it was kind of a matter of time, not a matter of hope she can get better. It was ugly story. There was quite a bit of time where she didn't leave the house because she was very sick. So I was going to pick up Charlie to go to practice one day, and one of our customers called and said, "Did you hear about Noah and Christian's dad?" I said, "No, what?" And so he was at work that day. This is what the mom at home, very, very, very sick, like, man. And he died at work. So just heart-wrenching, right? So he died in an accident at work. So, you just feel for those kids, like it's brutal. So they went and finished that hockey season, playing their hearts out, and these kids. So they played with their mom at home, and their family, which is an awesome family, they just chipped in, and just obviously, but they helped, got them to games and just made sure their life can go on as much as they can. And I guess I didn't really know the dad that well, but said hi to him a couple times because he wasn't really close to me, but I only knew him for a couple months just to say hi. But I guess he was just a phenomenal person. So, anyways, family kind of took care of them, and then we were at a tournament, and Christian was on the ice and got a text that the mom died. So these kids were, I think it was 15 and 13, something like that, 14 and 13. And so they had to, they played sports without their parents. Just a sec. Can't help it.
No, hey, man.
Can't
It's
help
not
it.
a problem.
Yeah, I thought I could get through this just talking about it, but
it's all good.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that happened. Mom passed away, and you just feel for them, and like the whole, they were on Hockey Night in Canada. Ron McLean came down to, because it was just such a terrible hockey story. You lose both your parents, and kids still want to play, and they're just great kids. So, anyways, the uncle Andrew took them in, and his wife Leslie, and I'm not just saying them, but the whole family kind of chips in, gets them through it, and these kids are awesome. Like, if I was really concerned, not because the family wasn't strong, but I was really concerned that who knows, right? You don't have mom and dad. So it's like, how do you actually get through this at that age when it's really, really critical to have parents? But the family stepped up like phenomenal, like amazing. So anyways, to see this kid get to sign with the OHL and the other brother doing great things in golf right now, it blows my mind. And I'm just actually so proud of him. To be honest with you, just so proud of him. And the side point of this is, a lot of people have more excuses than a pregnant nun why things don't work out. And if anybody had an excuse, to kind of to make or to go sideways in life, Noah and Christian could have did that very easily, right? Maybe it's just I don't want to listen to my uncles. You don't know what I've been through, and you just you can talk about that all day. But from the day that all these negative events have happened, they've never once have I ever seen either of them have a poor me attitude. Of course, they were sad, but they bounced back. Of course, I don't see them in their bedroom at night, but they bounced back. Phenomenal. So when Noah was drafted at 5'7", 155, that was 2 years ago. So this is the side point of hockey here is that he is now 6 feet tall and not heavy, but he's in great shape. So the point to this is that it's never over. Remember, we had Sebastian Gervais signed as a 12th rounder this first year. Noah does this as a 15th rounder. So when you get drafted in the first round, second rounder, you don't get your scholarship opportunities till later. It doesn't matter, and I got so much proof in this building that it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I'll go. I want to make sure you got to finish what you want to say. So the first thing about with Noah and Christian, like just like you said, great kids, man. Like awesome kids, always in a good mood, great to talk to. Even Christian too. I haven't seen him as much as I've seen Noah, but awesome kids, and I'm fired up for Noah. He got to wear his new helmet and gloves out the other day, and whatever, and he must just feel like $1 million about it. But to your point about the poor me attitude, it sounds cheesy and cliche, man. But the things that happen to you, it's really up to you to decide how you're going to interpret the bad thing that happened to you. You know, people kind of say that, and it's easier said than done a lot of the times. Especially put yourself in the shoes of these two kids when you're 13 and 14, and you lose both your parents. I am an adult, and I don't even know what I would do if both my parents were taken away from me like that, and there's nothing I could do. But to see that kid not turn it into a forget this crap, you know, the poor me attitude and all that, and people for much more mild events have that attitude, you know, where it's like, I'm getting screwed, this is not fair. And it's not fair, and it's not right. It's not fair. How could this happen to such a good family and great kids and all that? And you can ask all those questions, but all of that being said, it ends up being up to the individual to decide how they're going to interpret the things that have happened to them. And I don't know what they think about it. I don't know exactly how they dealt with it, or what the steps that they took were to be in the positions that they're in today, especially as such young kids still. It's amazing to see that. But just the fact that you can see both of them succeeding, thriving, they seem like really good people, good kids. They have their shit together more or less in their respective avenues of life. And it's just an awesome story, and something that not just other kids, but adults can look at and learn from. And it's amazing. It's amazing to see that. And it's just a nice little cherry on top. It's not the reason that it's so cool is not because he signed with the Spits necessarily. It's just a nice cherry on top of the fact that they've been able to pull themselves together and get through a really hard time, you know?
Absolutely. Like, with a little bit of time moving forward over the next year or two, he would have got a scholarship. That's I can't guarantee you, but that was coming down the road. Mm-hmm. So, he persevered, and it's awesome. And there's a tough kid, man. Yeah. If you look at him, you wouldn't think he's a tough kid. You'd think you want to give him a big hug. Yeah. But that's a tough kid. Well, and he plays tough. He plays a tough game.
And just bouncing it back kind of into the hockey realm too, is just there's another awesome 15th round, like life events aside, 15th round pick. Like the life events part makes it that much more amazing. Yeah. But that's a 15th round pick, man. No chance. You have no chance.
Well, and you got to look. Like, he's looking at that draft because he's a good player. Smart playmaking, finishes hits. I actually, about 4 years ago, I saw him and I said, "No, come here for a second." I said, "I love how aggressive you are and stuff." I said, "But you actually have to hit less." Yeah. He goes, "Oh, really?" He's eating whatever he was eating. Really? Cute face on him. Yeah. I go, "Yeah, like, here's why. Because you take yourself out of the play." I said, "You got to finish some," but I said, at some point you got to just back off a little bit and pick your spot. So I told him a few things. I go, "Okay, thanks, Andy." Yeah. Well, but you had to pull it out of him. Pull it away from him.
And that's a great adjustment to have to make, and not the other way, right? But just from that hockey perspective, it's such a freaking awesome story, man. Same as like with Seabass, and 15th round pick, too small, doesn't weigh enough, not going to play in the OHL. The Spits
Yeah.
are the best team now. No chance, man. That's
No.
the message that you can pull out of that,
watching
right?
players that he knows. This is like a lot of people say, well, I'm better than that guy. And it's like, are you really? Like, but he knows he's better than these guys.
Yeah.
He just happened to be 5'7" and 135 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, if he was.
And another thing too is like, think about this angle, because maybe this kind of segues to the next point unless you have something else. But the making the decision part now, and he doesn't have his parents to help, right? I'm sure he has some guidance, whatever. But how are you deciding now? You know that it's likely down the line you'll get a Division I scholarship, and now you have the Spitfires giving you another option here, and then having to navigate that whole situation without really that super close guidance of having your parents like to help you talk or to help talk you through it and that kind of stuff. Like, that's difficult.
It becomes very real when it becomes real. Because people like, you know, okay, so this is what happened. We're going to talk about that a little bit. How we have a few guys in that situation where the NCAA and the OHL are right there, and they're actually making decisions, and they're both are saying, I'll give you this, I'll give you this. Like, so one good thing is you have options, but the other thing is like, it's you're almost like a mosquito at a nudist colony, right? You're so excited, but where do I start?
Yeah.
Right. So you got two great things. So someone listening to this that isn't in the fight would, you know, you're gonna get two different things. Well, you're an idiot if you don't go to college, right? Because that's a simple decision. You get your school paid for. And then you can say, well, you're an idiot not to take the OHL right now or the CHL right now because you get your school paid for anyways, and you know, it's the fastest way to the NHL and all that stuff. So it seems really simple. But when you're actually the dog in the fight, it's like, oh my God, because here's one thing. If you get offered, if your dream was to play in the OHL and maybe got drafted late and then a team came up to you and is offering you a scholarship, and then the team that drafted you at the same time is offering you one, it's like, okay, I've always wanted to play here, but these guys were first. They showed me love first, right? So do you go back to this place because you know where your heart is? And anyways, that's that. I've kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, that's okay. I want to kind of get into that unless you had something else you wanted to.
No, not really.
Start talking about. So I don't know how you want to do the. Do you want to explain the situation a little bit more before we go into the details of it, or do you want to just start outlining kind of the decision-making process, maybe some of the things that you should be thinking about? Yeah, want to take it more that kind of way.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to be careful about is not to say names, and we won't do that. But I don't want to make the names obvious. But as I'm thinking about it, it's fine. Yeah, we'll talk about the situation.
So do you want me to do it, or do you want
you can start?
So more or less, what happened is we have a couple guys that have the opportunity to go to.
They have them.
Yeah, they have. They can go if they want. Like that's the thing. Yeah, so they have the scholarship ready to go, and now they're getting another offer from an OHL team to basically more or less the same thing, except you get this now.
Yeah,
it's kind of the deal. So they're now faced with the decision of, do we go this way and take the thing that we said we were going to take to start? A little bit more of a long road going the Division I route if you're playing hockey in Canada, because you have to delay a few years of junior before you get to go finish high school, that kind of thing. Or you want to have the candy now. And that's kind of, without, leading the conversation, that's kind of my own spin on what the basic decision ends up being, because they're two great options and there's a lot of layers to peel back on how you make a decision like that.
Yeah.
But at the base level in general, to me, it's just like, do you want the candy now or should you have the candy later?
Yeah.
And that's kind of trying to decide, is the delayed gratification actually better in this situation? Because delayed gratification isn't always the best thing, right? This is another common, a common thing that people talk about is, like, people have no patience. They don't want to wait for the thing that, and we've said it in our thing, like, this is the era of everybody wants it now and I want it now and whatever. But sometimes, like, the context actually matters, and sometimes having the thing now is actually the better choice.
Can be.
It's not just a given that delayed gratification is always better. It depends on what the situation is. So for these kids, it's like, is the delayed gratification actually better, where you get the ego pat of, now I'm playing at the super high level that everyone really thinks is super prestigious, or is it better to just jump the ship and do it now? And what is actually better for yourself as a hockey player in terms of your development and all that kind of stuff? And there's a whole bunch of points that we can go into on that. But is that enough for you to start
Yeah,
chewing on?
yeah, 100%. So, but so that's the question, right? What do I do? So obviously, it's going to be different for everybody because you have to know who you are, where you are in the development curve. Is your decision strictly hockey, or is it more education? And to back up a little bit, is American, like U.S. listeners will say, "What are you guys talking about?" In a lot of people say that. What are you talking about? What are you waiting for? Because in the U.S., it's just the process, right? You go to high school and then maybe you're fortunate enough to play on the U17, U18 National Development Program, or but it's North American League or the USHL, and that process, high school, really they don't start thinking about college. Like they go through that junior A process in the US, and then it's college. That's what they think about. So a lot of them don't even know why would anyone want to go to the Guelph Storm? Like what is that? Whereas in Canada, that process is the OHL or the CHL is right in front of our face. That's what we grow up with, and that decision is like what we grow up wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not a lot of kids that you see at 12 years old or 11 years old. If you ask them where they want to play in the next few years, like what's your dream? They want to play for their close or local CHL team. That's what they see, not the University of Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever. So there's just a different view. Yeah. And then the people overseas, there's club teams and stuff, so it's different, right? We're just talking because we're in Canada. This is what we're talking about.
Right. So just let me hop in here for a second, because we did an episode on this before. I think we called it NCAA versus the OHL, and I want to make sure we don't do exactly the same thing that we did before, because that'd be a good kind of episode to go back and listen to before this. But I think what I want to focus on this a little bit more. I want to touch on the kind of the stuff we touched on in that episode too, but after that, I kind of want to pull back and get into like the more personal elements of the decision making, instead of like just kind of the generic of how to weigh your options. So if we want to let's start with that, like kind of weighing your options, like which type of player or which type of person or whatever is better suited for NCAA versus the OHL. We'll kind of run through that like kind of quick, and then let's get into like the more personal stuff that comes into the decision making process after that. If that makes sense, that work for you?
So when I look at a player, if you look at a player that is physically more mature, maybe bigger, stronger at a younger age, who mentally is a little bit stronger or ahead of the curve a little bit, that's probably an indicator that you're probably more ready for the OHL, especially if we call them early bloomers, then for sure the CHL is where you want to go. Mm. Not for sure, but I would weigh more on that. If you grow up, if your schooling is not, you're not in love with school, you don't like the college life, which that was me. That was like, that turned me off. If you want to play more games, then the major junior CHL is probably your way. If you're a later bloomer, and late bloomer, just I don't mean as a hockey, well, kind of as a hockey player, but as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, if you're physically blooming a little bit late, then you got a lot of room to grow. Maybe you're a little bit immature, and I don't mean that like you play with dolls and stuff. I just mean that you're not comfortable talking to adults, or stuff like that. Just in your conversations, you can tell if your kid's ahead of the game maturity wise or not. So if you're a little bit not slower but not ahead of the game, then you need time to develop in all different areas of your life, then I would say that for sure you would want to look at the NCAA route if you have some talent, or if you need time to grow. That's definitely the way I would look at it. Because like the reality is that if you go to the OHL at 18, which is fine because you still get 18, 19, 21 as an overage if you want, still 3 really good years of junior. That doesn't mean that you can't make it. It's just you lose 1 or 2 years of that development in that big, And if I had that choice, I probably would go to college.
Yeah.
If I could only make it at that point.
Yeah, I think just to tighten up kind of what you're talking about, it comes down to kind of where you put yourself on the development curve at what time. and this is again coming from the perspective in Canada where you have the CHL as an option. Like again, people that are listening in the States, this could be different. I don't really know enough about what that development timeline looks like necessarily, because I don't really know all the ins and outs of high school hockey and all that kind of stuff. But for kids that are in Canada, if you have the option, at what age are you at what point? So if you are ready to go to the OHL at 16, you should be more of a man child, not necessarily in the sense of your body development, though that could be one of the pieces of criteria. But like you said, it's more the maturity level of, are you mature enough to handle your life as more like an adult? So that would be like your ability to communicate with adults, to deal with living on your own, to deal with potentially having some conflict with personalities or whatever in the dressing room, dealing with the fact that there's older kids that are allowed to drink and drive, and not together, but drive separately from drinking, obviously, and do those more mature types of activities, go out. You don't have somebody watching you for your curfews and all that stuff all the time. So that's kind of
Can you survive a dress room with when you're 16 with 21-year-olds?
Right. So those gaps in age and all that kind of stuff. If you don't find yourself, or if you look at your kid and you don't see them necessarily being able to handle that to an optimal level at the point that they're at, then maybe they could use a few more years of grooming.
Yep.
And that's kind of the difference between the two paths, right? Because if you can take a couple extra years to, finish high school at home, play a couple years of not quite as competitive level of junior or high level of junior hockey first, and kind of take more incremental steps to get to that point, then that might be where you're looking at going towards the NCAA route, right? Because you have, like, to your point, not because you're gonna one is necessarily better than the other. It's just, if you go to the OHL, that is the more fast track route. Whereas if you go to the NCAA, coming from somewhere in Canada, you have to wait a couple extra years, and those couple extra years could end up being key to what your development needs as an individual, right? So if the other part of it too that I wanted to mention is the amount of connectivity between leagues and between players and kids going from one team to the other, or one junior league to the other. There's a very wide range of paths that you can take to get there. Like, you have some kids that will go when they're 18 as true freshmen and start school right away. You have kids that'll wait till they're 20. You have kids that'll start in the OHL when they're 16. Kid like Noah, that's not going to start till he'll be 18.
Yep.
And so it's again follows that thing of, there's no right answer or no right path. But in terms of your personal characteristics, which way you should be judging, that decision, those are kind of like the things that you should be playing around in your mind in a general sense of how you're going to make that choice. Does that make sense, what I said?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah. So, well, I was going to say, do you want to go to the kind of those deeper layers, or do you have more you want to say on that?
Give me a deeper layer.
So the way that I was thinking about it, just in talking with some of these guys that are making these choices, to me, the decision, like we said, it comes down to some of those things that we just outlined in terms of the types of people. But there's the other element of it that I think is really important, is the types of personalities you're going to be dealing with, or the type of organization that you're going to be dealing with, the people that are involved, who's running it, and how do those things line up with you as a person as well.
Yeah.
So I think beyond the just like the pure hockey judgment of the development curve and where you're at, I think you also have to judge that type of stuff as well. So it's like, who's the coach? Does he actually like you as a player? Does he know a lot about you? Are they just offering you something because they think you're good because someone else told them? Who came to you first? That's actually an important thing to understand. And judging kind of those, I would call them more soft criteria that aren't initially obvious. Because if you're a really good player, you'll be fine in either league.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? If you can play in the NCAA, you can play in the OHL. If you can play in the OHL, you can play in the NCAA to some degree.
Yep.
Whether it's earlier or later, obviously that's up for how you make your decision. But in terms of the people involved, I think that's a really important thing to start to weigh and to think about and to judge when you guys are having the conversation, making the decision, not just the purely hockey standpoint.
Yeah, so I look at the opportunity that one of our students has, that they were recruited and he's committed to school, and now there's a Canadian Hockey League team that's really pressing them hard to go to their program. And like you said, are they pressing hard because, oh, we know they're better than what we thought they were? Or is it because they knew that all along? Well, the college team is the ones that laid it all out for them, and this kid got recruited to them. And it was like, this is why we like you, and it's like, we really like you right now, and we see you as, you know, fitting in here, and we like your style, and this is how, you know, we puzzle you into our team, and this is where we project you. And you know, they've been to several games to watch this player, and they've spent time with the family. And like, I get, like, no matter who you are, before you know, when someone gets drafted to the OHL, and it's before anything starts, you're the greatest thing ever, right? It's your first. It's like going on your first date. When you go on your first date, the old girl's got the makeup on. She smells good. She's got her best clothes on. She eats a salad, you know, taking small bites. Please, thank you. Everything's perfect. Everything's perfect until you get married. And all of a sudden, you get the track pants, and you know,
you get the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. You know, you start getting all the stuff that, you know, you get the real person. So it's no different than a hockey team when you get recruited, like even drafted the NHL, right? Oh, so glad to have you. Well, there's 2 spots in the next 10 years, really. So we're not that glad. Hopefully you work hard and make it. So anyways, you hear all the good stuff until the reality sets in. So when people are courting you, as a term, as the dating thing goes,
courting you,
is they're going to give you their best. Right, so everything sounds good.
It's a sales pitch, right?
It's a sales pitch, and then when you get there, things can change. But having said that, there's the one side, the college, the U.S. college that is they're committed to, that he's committed to, is they're all over him, and they explain why they like him so much and how they fit in. And to me, that would mean a lot to me, that you're the one that that believed in me when no one else did. You came first to the dance, and you've spent the time, you've invested a little bit of time, money, energy in me, and I feel like there's a loyalty there. Not to say that you have to be loyal, because it goes both ways, but to me, that's like that would be my heart's there right now.
Yeah,
especially if that's kind of where you're leaning in the first place. And then the other thing I like about that, if a college does that, is there is less likely, like, and I could be a little bit wrong, but I think I'm mostly right here. In a college atmosphere, coaches tend to be there, like the guy that just left, I think it was Boston BU. I think he was there for 25 or 35 years or 40 years as a coach, something like that. And a lot of the programs have coaches that are there for a very, very long time. Yeah. So when this coach that has been there for a long time is saying, this is where I see you fit, I take that to the bank a little bit more than like the CHL. Not a bad thing, just it's different because general managers are picking players more than coaches are.
A lot of moving
whereas
around.
Coaches in the NCAA are part of the recruiting process, and they see players that they like. So if they're offering you something, it's because that coach actually wants you on his team, not necessarily the general manager.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty good setup, I think. Whereas so now if you're going from the college and you're kind of getting pulled to go, hey, we'll come and play for us now. I'll take care of you. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. It's like, okay, the general manager is saying that, but what is the coach actually saying? Because at the end of the day, the coach is the guy that plays you. Mm-hmm. And the general manager could say, I think I like this kid. And the coach says, yeah, okay, well, whatever, you sign him, whatever. And if he doesn't play your style or don't like the personality and he's never really talked to you before, you don't know. You don't know.
Well, and an important difference between the two processes is the one you have the draft, the other they have to come find you. And what I really like about this particular situation, and it could go either way. I'm not saying only the NCAA does this, because the OHL could just as well do this. But in this case, what happened was the school told the kid, this is why we like you. This is why we want you. This is where you can fit on our team. And that's a lot different than just saying, hey, come play here. We'll give you this if you come play here, period. You know?
Yeah, because so that situation that the boy's in right now.
Right, that situation particular, because it could go the other way. You could have the OHL team saying, hey, come here because we want you to be the first line right winger in a year and a half, and
Yeah.
we think we can develop you to be that and give you a really good chance at moving on to play professional. So the OHL could just as well do that, but it's in this case because the school came and did that. I think that's a valuable data point in making your decision, and because it's super, it's super sexy to go play in the OHL today and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. But in terms of your personal development and where you will be best catered to in terms of your trajectory as an individual player, those types of things need to be in the equation when you're making your decision, and you could do this with two different schools too. Like you could have two schools where, let's say you have North Dakota that's saying, yep, here's your scholarship, come play for us. But then you have a smaller school that's saying, yep, here's your scholarship, come play for us. And we want you because this, and this. We think you would fit perfect. You play our style, you play this. And they clearly have invested some time in researching you as an individual, as a person, as a player, to see where that you can fit in that lineup. And I think that's a very, very important thing to consider if you're in the fortunate position of being able to make a choice. And this goes for the kid we're talking about. This goes for somebody like Noah. I'm sure had to make that decision when he was deciding between. These are things that you need to consider, because just because you can have the candy now doesn't mean that it's going to be better for you long term. And vice versa. So it's just those are things you have to make sure you're considering when you're making your decision.
Bottom line is, if you're going to play in the NHL, you're probably not going to get there before 22 years old anyways. So whether you go through the OHL, which everyone says they develop faster, they develop hockey players. No, it's the same, but I'll explain that in a minute. The other side that is really nice about this is, as you said earlier, is those coaches really like you. And that's not to say that the CHL coaches don't like you or the team doesn't want you anymore. They're just, their hands are tied because, as you said, the draft. So I could just Eric Palazzolo as a hockey player. That's what I hope I can draft. Well, if you're drafted 18th and someone takes you at 3, well, there's nothing you can do. There's zero recruiting you can do up until you get the draft. So that part's that part.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's just important though. Like, there's just something to be said about having somebody who cares about you personally, and that, again, this is what makes it hard, is that you don't know actually because they're giving you the sales pitch, right? You don't know actually how much this person or this team or this organization actually cares about you. All you can go off of is what they're telling you. But there's a certain level of what would the term be? Like being genuine. I don't know. I'm trying to think of it.
Genuine.
Yeah, sure. You can kind of gauge that, right? You can kind of gauge how genuine someone is being.
Yep.
And that should be part of your decision making. Because even with a couple of these kids, and not even just them, other guys, like when they're trying to decide which junior team to play for. Like I remember I was talking to one kid, and he was deciding which team to play junior for locally. There's a few options that he had. And I was saying to him, I was like, well, yeah, this one team seems to be a better organization, but this other team really wants you.
Mm-hmm.
So is it better for you to go where you're really wanted, or is it better for you to go where it's better on paper?
Yeah.
And that's something that you really need to think about. Like, it's the fact that somebody is willing to spend time on you and really take a look at you and understand your game and understand your family and you as a person and all those other factors. I think that's an important thing to judge, because even with some of those other guys that like trying to think about going out west and going to the USHL or going up into the OJ and all that kind of stuff, it's like you don't know the types of people that you're walking into.
Yeah.
And if you play junior here, you have people that care about you.
Yeah.
You have people that want the best for you and that are going to invest time in you and keep you accountable to make sure you're developing properly. And you want to go to a place where you feel like you'll get the most of that. You want the most amount of that possible, where people genuinely care about you and your success. And when people they're not showing you that, I think that's an important point.
I think it's a huge point. And that's why I think in that one situation, when we look at it, I was talking to one of the dads the other day, and I said, it's not, I can't make the decision for you at all. I know, I wish I could give you a clear-cut decision. And we talked about things, and it's like, if these people are the first ones, and there was others, but these are the ones that said, no, we want you. And here's why, and here's how, and this is what we want to do. This is where we see you fitting in. And all of a sudden you start, because the hockey world's small, and then it gets out that, well, and of course the OHL team, they were kind of making a commitment They had to report back, this is what's going on through the agent and stuff. So then all of a sudden their offer gets a little bit better and they want them they become more desirable. It's like, well, why am I desirable now? Because these guys want me. So I would say, in making the commitment, it's like hard to, and there's another thing, you make an integrity move now, right? Like if you sit there and you say, yes, you commit to me, I commit to you, and then you say, I don't commit now. It's like, and I know for this one family, it's like, that's a really tough decision for them.
Yeah.
And I would go, so what I said to the dad is, I said, like, number one, as a family, you have to, as a family, we have to look at the player. Okay, so what does the player want, right? What do you want to do, Eric? Because if it was 3 months ago or all last year, or whatever, it's that you always wanted to play in the CHL, and this is what your burning desire is, to play for the whatever team drafted you, and then when the school came to you and you were like, okay, well, that's good too. Okay, we'll go there, and you're pretending that's what you really wanted, is different than when they offered, this is really what I want, right? So we have to decide as a player, what is it that you really want? And that's an honest conversation with the dad and the kid. So I just think that with everything that is presented, they have to have that conversation where it's like, which way did you really want to lean? Let's go peel it back and be honest about it. Once you peel it back, say, okay, if it was, they really want to go to the HL, now the parents have an obligation to be parents, right? Draw that line in the middle, and what's good, what's bad, the benefits and the cons, and the pros and cons of everything, and you kind of make a non-emotional decision, just based on what's the best decision for us as a family and stuff. But at the end of the day, all that's considered, we still have to go with what the kid's desire is, because at the end of the day, the kid has to make a decision, and it has to live with that decision as well. Mm-hmm. Right? Because if my parents would have said, "Hey, you're going to school," no, you're going to school, we're not letting you go to the OHL, I would have really, really been pissed.
Yeah, for sure.
Pissed. That's just because it's my life, man.
This is why it's actually important. Again, it comes back to every time we talk, it's about having a brain, and you actually have to be able to sit down and think about what is best for you. And I get questions like this all the time. It's not even in this context, like the OHL NCAA thing, but I got kids that'll send me messages about, like, should I play for the AAA team, or should I play for my high school team, or should I go to prep school, or whatever? And it's the same choice. It really is. It's a smaller scale, but it's the same choice. And it's like, you're trying to weigh the two questions that I give them always, because most of the kids, they ask me questions, I don't know who they are, I don't know the circumstance. So I say, in general, the two questions you have to answer is, one, is it the highest level I could be playing at? And then two, what type of opportunity am I going to get on this team? And if the highest level question, if it's equal, so like if you're playing NCAA versus the OHL, that's pretty equal. Mm-hmm. If you're playing a really high quality AAA team versus a high quality prep school team, it's about the same level. Now it comes down to, what is my opportunity going to be like? So if my long-term goal is to play as a professional hockey player, play in the NHL or whatever, fill in the blank, if that's, what does my track look like going that way? And if you scale that down to when you're playing minor hockey or whatever, it's the same question. It's the same decision-making process. If I want to be in the OHL in X number of years, or if I want to be at a Division I school in X number of years, then how do I choose between the prep school path and the AAA path, or whatever your choice is, depending on where you live, Mm-hmm. And for a lot of these kids, a lot of them that are actually from the States that ask that question, the prep school AAA thing, it's like, you need to actually sit down and write it out, or talk it out with your brother or sister or mom or dad or whoever it is that can help guide you in making that choice. And you as an individual person, what is actually better for you? Because I was talking to one of these kids that has this kind of decision to make, and he was kind of saying, well, I mean, like, this team's, it's just better. And it's like, that's not a reason. Like, that's not a reason.
Yeah, it's just, that's surface better.
Yeah, that's surface better, right? It sounds good now and you get it today and whatever. It's like, this is better. And it's like, what makes it better? What makes it better in general, and what makes it better for you as an individual, And that's kind of how you have to frame that decision-making process. Again, if you're lucky enough to be in the position where you get to make a choice between the two things, So
if you talk to an OHL guy or college guy, they're going to tell you their way is the best way to get to the NHL. The CHL, they're going to say it's the fastest. The colleges are going to say that you'll develop, you're going to get stronger and whatever. So the bottom line is, yes, it's the fastest way for the CHL was the fastest way for Connor McDavid because he would have been first overall whether he played in Pakistan, right? Is that funny? Well, but he's the best hockey player in the world. Eric's laughing at this. Do I have to start over?
No.
No good.
The Pakistan hockey team.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. No. But if you played in Pakistan, he would be the first overall pick. Owen Power was a first overall pick, and he played in Michigan.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter. Right. So the development is this. You're probably not going to play till you're 22 years old. In the OHL, it's the type of player you are. You're laughing now.
Sorry.
I forgot. So they're going to tell you. So each league is going to tell you why they're better. So the OHL is going to say, well, here's the thing. Do you want to go to college? Right, when they're recruiting anyways. You want to go to college and play 30 games a year? And practice 4 times a week and only get 2 games on a weekend and have holiday breaks and study breaks and all that stuff. Is that really what you want to do? Because this league will get you developed for the NHL a lot more because you play 80 games a year or 70 games a year plus playoffs plus exhibition. It's a lot of hockey. You're going to get you more ready for the National Hockey League. And the college is going to say, well, do you really want to go and play 80 games a year and get worn out and not have the chance to develop your body and mature and practice and get really good at your skill? And so they each got their thing. Well, here's the thing, right? It depends who you are. And so what is the answer though? So if a guy from the NHL, like Charlie's got a guy on his team, and this happens in the NHL all the time. A guy signs, they went to committed to a school, they sign with an NHL team, and then they say, well, we really think that you should go to the Guelph Storm and develop because you're gonna get more game ready for your pro career. Well, that's him. Right, it doesn't mean for everybody. It's just that now you got to sign players. It's like, yeah, okay, so it's a great development league. So they're the same. It's who you are and what you make of it, and the type of person you are. So some kids need to develop, like to the earlier point, physically. If you need to develop and you need a year or two, then maybe that's a really good place to go as the U.S. colleges.
Yeah, I think just to what we're saying, we're not giving an answer because there's no answer. It depends on a whole bunch of crap that we just talked about. But I think the important thing to understand, and people kind of can forget this, the CHL can be faster if you're a certain type of player, but the average age of a first-year player in the NHL is 22, 23.
Yeah.
So that means you can go to college, you can play your 4 years of college, and you're 22, 23. And maybe 24. And you can play the CHL, you can get drafted. You might have to go cook for 2 years in the American League, and now you're 22, 23 anyways.
Yep.
So it's not even like the finish line. On average, the finish line is actually the same time frame.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So it might feel faster getting to pro hockey going the CHL way, but in terms of starting your NHL career, if that's what your ultimate goal is, the finish line actually ends up being the same age anyways. It's not like guys come out of college and they're 27 when they start playing, It's like they come out and they're 23, 22, 23, 24. From the CHL, your average age for a first-year player is still 22, 23, 24. That's still the average age, right?
100%.
So that's an important thing to understand. It's not really like it's that much faster. For a select few, it'll be faster.
Right.
But those are the guys that, if they went to college, it'd be faster for them anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
it's kind of the same, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
To use
Well, the colleges though, like, I mean, this would be a sales pitch for the colleges. And that's what they do. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but they'll use the example of an Alex Killorn, see how he developed, and like the free agents that sign out of college, right? That they marinate in college and they get bigger, stronger, and all that kind of stuff. And they always use that as the prototype of this is what we do in college, and so that's true. But it also happens on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And then the CHL can say, well, this is what we do. We get the top end guys, and we got the most players in the NHL and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, but it's the same story. You just flip it, right? You focus on what your strong points have been, but when you look in the middle of things, it's kind of all the same.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it was good. We kind of hopefully outlined a little bit of a different aspect of the decision-making process, but it's good to revisit it because I know it's top of mind at PowerTech and for a lot of the kids here. So do you have anything else you want to finish up on before we shut her down?
Well, I just wanted to say that we had a lot of issues here in our thing. So hopefully this came out properly.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay, good.
I'll sort it out.
No, just but guys, like think about there's I don't know if you can make a wrong decision if you know who you are. If you can kind of you and your family can sit down and kind of understand who you are. The race to the finish line is still a finish line, right? And like you said, we're gonna get there around 22 years old, ish. So whether you play your first overall pick to the Windsor Spitfires, or you're a walk-on in the CHL, or you're a small school NCAA guy, it's the process. It's the process. It's the process. It's not about where you are today. It's about making sure every day you're getting a little bit better, and you go in a program where, hopefully you can get to choose. You get to go to a program that is a good fit for you. So if you have options, look at them and just see what fits best for you long term. That's the important thing, is the long-term decision. Where am I going to be at 22, not at 16 or 17? And if you can keep that in mind, every step of the way, you take a really good hard look and make sure that you're on the right path. So if it means that, I'm going to use an American hockey player. If it means that you're not getting to the USHL at 16 or 17, that doesn't mean that you can't be an NHL hockey player. You might have to play in the North American League, which I believe that the USHL is like the top tier. So if you did that for a year and then went to the USHL, are you a bad hockey player? No, you're on a good path. Are you getting better? Are you getting ice time? Are you playing? And then you play a couple years there and you get to a college and you finish that out and get to the whatever your goals are. If you get there that way, that's fine. In the OHL for the Canadian kids, it might mean that you are playing at a junior B level for a year or maybe two. But if you're getting better, the doors open up for you, and you're still only 18 years old or 19 years old. You still have a couple of years to get your scholarship or to play in the CHL. So the important thing is to take it seriously and play every practice and game and everything you do very, very seriously. And that's how the doors will open for you. It doesn't matter where you are when you're 16.
Yeah.
So
I think that's good to finish, man. There's no right decision, no recipe, as we always say. So hopefully that's helpful. If you guys have any questions, then as always, you can follow up with us.